Welcome back to the place where our crazy dreams seem just a little less crazy. Mark Haney is our Chief Dreaming Officer. He knows the right people, the right tactics, and the right philosophies to win. He is the entrepreneur next door, and this is The Mark Haney Show.
Welcome back to The Mark Haney Show. I'm Mark Haney. I'm joined by Kelly Resendez. You do so much, Kelly. I tried to describe it earlier, but give us an idea. Who is Kelly Resendez?
Yeah, just simple person, to be honest with you. I pride myself that I'm authentic, and every day I battle the same things that every other mom and working person does out there, and trying to balance everything and prioritize my own personal well-being with trying to be of service and impact to other people. So right now, I run Paramount Partners Group, which is a smaller mortgage company here.
But we've all heard of it.
Yeah, we're a DBA of Paramount Equity Mortgage. And then I'm also a writer and speaker. So I've published 2 books in the last couple years and am on the road speaking a lot and just trying to share some of the wisdom that I've learned on my personal growth journey, especially with entrepreneurs or other people that just might be trying to create a new vision for their life or their business.
I love it. I want to dive deep into that, but let's talk just briefly about your Paramount Equity, Paramount Partners experience. What does that look like? I mean, how do you balance that all out? Because that's huge.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I feel like you and Hayes Barnard might be relatives.
He is a good man.
He is. The amount of energy that he brings into a room is just contagious, and it's awesome. So I've been there for 7 years, and a part of his mission and journey in just trying to, again, build that community feel for a mortgage company that a lot of times is difficult to do. And what we are doing now, we pretty much have Loan Pal, which is our consumer direct and personal finance brand. And then we have my division, which is Paramount Partners Group, which is our more feet on the street. We get to work with amazing real estate agents like Ashley Haney and Haney Garcia, and really just be able to bring mortgages down to a community level.
Yeah, great stuff that you do at Paramount. But I want to get to know Kelly. You are you've written books, which means you are an expert, right? Because I think, isn't it true that if you write a book, it takes so much research, you have to do so much soul searching, you really immerse yourself in these concepts. You have to become an expert during that process.
You do. I mean, and truly, it is one of those that you get to a point where you also feel the need to give back. I started my personal growth journey 15 years ago, and I was a very successful loan officer at the time, high 6-figure earner, and to anyone else appeared to have it all. And I had some situations in my life where I really just had to start asking bigger questions. Like, what am I doing this for? I was burning the candle at both ends. I was exhausted, and I really wasn't filled with joy or gratitude. It was all about stress, waking up in the middle of the night, wondering if everything was going to be okay. And I didn't realize how many other people out there that are on the entrepreneur journey also experience that same, feeling. And for me to be able to just share some of the wisdom that I've gained from all of those amazing teachers that I've had along the way was just, what I needed to do.
Was there something that sort of prompted you to make this change?
Yeah, in my life personally, my mom, who was very similar to how I was, she was a workaholic. She'd been in real estate and investing and whatnot. At the young age of 57, was diagnosed with dementia. And at that moment, as I started to understand more about the neuroscience and just, the way that our brains work, I realized that so much of it could have been because of the way that she took care of herself. And so I just vowed at that moment, I've got to live differently. And I've got to be able to make some of those changes so that I just leave it all here. I'm going to experience joy in this lifetime and do it in a way that I can still, be a very successful entrepreneur and impact other people's lives and not be burnt out at all times. And yeah,
so
we're in an achiever world.
Yeah, it's changing, but you had this sort of awakening, it sounds like, with the illness of your mother. What then did you do? Walk us down that storyline.
Yeah, so I think first it was just making that decision that I'm not going to live this way for another day. And the minute that I realized that I had the power to create whatever possibility that I could in my own life, I just felt empowered to kind of start making new decisions. And as I did that, I was also crystal clear about what help I needed in order to do that. And whether you call it God or the universe, it just was like everything was orchestrated around me growing. And it was finding speakers and teachers and workshops and, mentors like yourself who were able to share with me how they had done it. And I started to just keep my proximity really small to the people that I wanted to emulate, rather than surrounding myself with the people that were just like me, which were also burnt out, highly distracted, just really, quick to just, get that quick fix instead of wanting to create a new life for themselves.
Well, let's talk about your first book. What's that book, and what kind of impact has it had?
Yeah, so my first book is called Foundation to Sustainable Success, and it's within the mortgage and real estate industries. And really what it focuses on most is on who you're being. And so many people in business focus on what they're doing or how they're doing it. And I don't think that we spend enough time on our own emotional intelligence and mindset and the way that we manage triggers, just the way that we manage overthinking and self-sabotage. And so it really just takes a look at giving them a new identity that they can adopt for themselves so that they can become the person that people want to be attracted to, so that they can be that influencer. Because to be an influencer, people are only going to listen to those that are compassionate and open-hearted and really just in a place where they can help them.
Well, in writing that book, I have to imagine you had to take a look at yourself, at your own journey. As you took a look in the mirror, so to speak, what did you discover about yourself?
Yeah, and in looking at that, I just realized that there was a few common themes in my life, and I had created massive success for myself in an industry that was filled with a lot of mediocrity, to be honest. In the lending community, for every top producer, there's about 50 people that are just dabbling.
Okay.
And so I really just had to look at some of the common themes in my own life, which were just, I worked hard. There was I did not shy away from the fact that I needed to work hard. And I also needed to spend more time taking care of myself. So I always spent an hour every morning just really trying to prepare through journaling, reading, listening to podcasts, things like that, so that I was trying to replace a lot of that pattern thinking that had been pumped into me since the beginning of time. So I had to just look at some of the things that I did. And then the goal and vision planning was a big one. I've always been that way.
Well, okay, so you say you listen to podcasts, and I'm wondering, in today's society, we're all we're not so much left with the old media. The new media is taking over the podcast, and because of digital, we are listening to new celebrities. Anybody now can be an influencer. Who's inspired you at the podcast level or at the influencer level?
Yeah, from an influencer level, I mean, I would tell you that the biggest influencer in my life has probably been Tony Robbins. And the reason is that he's done achievement and spirituality in tandem very well, where a lot of the other people in the space, it's just all about achievement or what it looks like, not what it feels like. And he is a massive, just giver behind the scenes. A lot of people don't realize that. And I mean, there's been many other people as well along the journey, from Eckhart Tolle to Deepak Chopra, people that really were able to round out my type A-ism. There was no doubt about it. Like, I was a driver, I was type A, but I wasn't experiencing my success the way that I wanted to.
Yeah.
So
you're building what I'll call a personal brand. You're obviously still a very successful executive while simultaneously building this brand. Continue to walk us down this journey. You're building this, you're writing it, you've written another book, you're speaking, you're building a brand. What is that like? How are you going about this?
Yeah, well, I truly feel my purpose, and I believe for many people, it's the same purpose, that we are here to serve and impact other people. And the only way to do that is when we're filled, like absolutely filled with joy and enthusiasm. It's going to pour over. And the majority of people burn out. They're just constantly emptying themselves to give to other people. And so I stand in that place where my cup is overflowing. And through Big Voices, which is my latest book in the women's empowerment space, I really felt personally pulled to share some of the strategies that I'd learned to overcome some of my preferred methods of self-sabotage. And so everyone that we know, we can look at them and say, they have so much potential. You probably meet with entrepreneurs every day where you just see something with them. That's not the challenge. It's the actualization of your potential that really gets you to that next level. And sometimes we just need some help. We need to know, like, I'm a recovering perfectionist and I know how to help people that are struggling with perfectionism or, like the time management thing. Like, I just call nonsense. Like, I'm a mom, I run a company, I can do a lot at one time. It just hasn't been important to you. Like, that's the real question that we have to ask ourselves. If we haven't done it, is it really that important to you? And you got to keep digging until you find what's really important to you.
Well, thinking about as a guy here, I don't know that I can relate the same way to how it must be trying to be a woman, growing a business, multiple businesses. Obviously, being a mom in many cases is a lot different than being a dad. So thinking about the specific challenges that you've ran into and that other women run into, how do you address those?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is just pull ourselves out of isolation. Whether you're a man or a woman, what stops us from actualizing our potential is just some sort of block. So your blocks might be different than my blocks, but they're, pretty universal to many people that are out there.
Well, what do you mean actualization? You've used that term a couple of times. What does that mean?
Self-actualization is just really where you become your highest self, and you can truly feel like you are a masterpiece.
That's when you're happy,
that
right? I think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Self-actualization is at the base, right?
Absolutely, where you're
Or is that
consciously
the top?
aware.
Excuse me, maybe it's the top of the pyramid.
You're just consciously aware of who you are and all of the pattern nonsense that we brought along this journey with us. Because like my kids, I had garbage in too. It was just different garbage. We've been, trained by the media and other things as to what should be important in our life. And we've got to override a lot of that. Until you're conscious and wake up and realize you're not your thoughts, it's really difficult to do that.
Dive deeper into that. Unpack that a little bit. What do you mean, not your thoughts?
Yeah, well, most people that are not conscious and have not awakened yet allow their thoughts and emotions to guide them. So it's like, I'm hungry, and they eat a cheeseburger or a large pepperoni pizza, where somebody that's a little more conscious might say, that's just your thought trying to get you off course.
So step
Health
out
is
of
important.
yourself, step away from yourself,
Absolutely.
and look at this person. Look at Kelly Resendez and go, if you have a doubt or you have a hankering for a sandwich, I mean, that's just your thoughts. You're stepping out as a secondary person
Yes.
or a spirit, if you will, looking into that.
Absolutely.
Is that a fair way of looking at it?
It's a completely fair way of looking at it. And it's complicated for a lot of people to understand because they don't know. I mean, half the thoughts that we have are just plain nonsense.
Yes.
You're like, whose was that? I don't even know where it came from. So you've got to recognize that you don't have to listen to all the thoughts. You can sort them, qualify them, and only grab onto the ones that are in alignment with your vision and your goals for your life.
Well, why did you direct the book so specifically toward women? What did they get out of it that maybe someone like myself might see differently or not get out of it?
Yeah, to be honest, I think men would also get a lot out of reading Big Voices, but the idea behind empowering women to awaken is that we are so powerful right now. We are still taking the majority of child-rearing responsibilities on, and we're suffering at a level that we don't have a lot to give. I mean, when you look at the ugly truth of what we're facing, 20% of women are on anti-psychiatric medication.
Wow.
Which means
What's it for us guys?
it's a little bit lower.
Okay.
It's somewhere in, I think, the 16% realm, but we're still looking for that quick fix. Obesity has skyrocketed, sleeplessness has gone up, childhood obesity, a lot of these things that women just feel like they're exhausted.
Yeah.
So they may just run through the drive-thru, and our children are so valuable that I want to encourage the women out there to awaken so that we can support men awakening as well, because we need one another, and just in different ways. And I didn't experience my own awakening as a man, so it was a little easier to write a book for women.
I can only imagine. Well, I mean, in the influencer space, you are becoming an influencer, and I think it's probably, I mean, if you look at the value of an influencer brand, some of the most valuable influencers, I call it the equity of influence, right? So that influence has a monetary value to it, right? It's if you are known, if you are influential, that's actually worth something. And women are bigger influencers than guys these days.
We are. Consumer spending is driven by us, of course.
That's true. Oh, okay.
And,
Is that the Kim Kardashian effect?
Yeah, that definitely can be. But you've got to be careful about who you allow to influence you as well. So you want to be really picky, about what you allow into your mind, because our minds are just so sticky. We can just grab onto something. I mean, there's stuff that you and I are both probably struggling from a fourth grade, situation that we had as a child. Like a lot of that stuff is sticky. So we've got to be careful what we allow in so that we can stay, enjoy.
Okay, so building that brand. I want to maybe there's people out there right now. I run into entrepreneurs. I mean, it's my world is meeting entrepreneurs. How do I unite the entrepreneurs to change the world, change the hometown that we love? Just advice. Thinking if I'm an entrepreneur that I want to build this personal brand. I want to maybe do something where I start my own podcast. I consider writing a book. Where's a good place to start?
The best place to start is just really to give yourself some time alone and allow that vision to kind of come forward. And I don't want to sound too woo-woo, but most of us, if the same thing keeps coming up over and over again where you feel pulled to do something, it's not going to go away. Yeah. Like you need to listen to it and give it the attention that it deserves. And having that balance between doing the work. So I've still got to go do the work. I've got to do my meetings and I've got to do these other things. But in building a brand for yourself, what you're doing is you're just making everything easier. So whether it's recruitment or business development or whatnot, just being in that place where you are influencing people positively. Yes. And I'm a giver. I mean, if there's one thing like yourself, like it's about giving, and you don't have to expect back from that person. You just have to trust that if you continuously pour into other people, that it all ends up coming back to you and your business. So where you got to start is just figure out what is important to you. Because if you go after something that's really not, you're not going to have enough leverage to continue.
Okay, so go after something that's important to you, something that you have passion about. I always think of things as something, making things sustainable, some kind of sustainable passion or sustainable interest, because you got to be able to stick with it. It's got to be able to monetize at some point to pay for this. For me, I have this fascination about igniting an entrepreneurial revolution. Right? If us entrepreneurs help enough of the up and comers, we can change the hometown we love. But we want to do things. I'm thinking like you build the Paramount equity brand. You're differentiated in some way. You're not the same as every other mortgage company. But if I'm building this influencer brand, right? If this Big Voices brand, how is it different? That's what I wonder. How do you figure out your differentiated message so it doesn't get lost in the with all the noise? How do we divide up the signal to noise issue?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm the same person, no matter if I'm in the boardroom at Paramount Partners Group or if I'm speaking for Big Voices or my Foundation to Sustainable Success platform. Like it's pulled through. So I get to be one person everywhere. It's about impact and it's about doing things differently. So if you look at my brand, somebody's going to say, she is about, like you, igniting people's purpose. And so earlier today, I had a women's mastermind at my office where we pull groups of women together that have common issues, or we have one for men later this week in our office. We're just doing things that are different. And the brand itself, I'll tell you, for Big Voices, the brand wasn't to make money. That's the honest truth. The brand for that is my purpose project. And I was clear about it. Now, I do make money in other businesses. And so I have to really stay business minded in those arenas. But we've got to be able to separate like what is our contribution and what is our business, because it's two different ways to run things, but you can still create that brand for yourself in both arenas. All
right, let's talk about what the future is. You've written the 2 books. You have masterminds, speaking opportunities. Where are you taking this thing, Kelly?
Yeah, I want to impact millions of women across the world. And I don't think that there is many people out there realize just how easy that is to do, whether it's to get a bus and go into communities and just start speaking to the youth or other people. And I want to be able to be in a place where I do impact people all over the world, because we have first world problems here. Yeah. I mean, the things that I deal with, like my son's internet going out when he's playing Fortnite. If there's any listeners out there with, 13-year-old boys, you would think it's the end of the world. And yet there are so many other areas that we can help where people don't have enough food to eat, or they don't have the same opportunities that we do. So I want to explode this and really just take it across the globe and empower more people to just impact and serve other people.
Kelly Resendez, thank you very much. Inspiring me, I think inspiring all of Sacramento today, and helping us think a little bit more about our purpose and why we were put on this planet. And anyway, thank you very much for sharing your story. Don't change that station. Don't change the dial, because coming up to the break, we're going to meet Tommy Smith and Edward Navalis. We're going to talk about Kaiser Permanente teaming up with the Inner City Capital Connections program to create more opportunities right here in our hometown. I am the entrepreneur next door, and this is the Mark Haney Show.